This is a beautiful day. I welcome you, my listeners, you that is watching me right now, wherever you are watching from. I say good morning to you. I say good afternoon. I say good evening, wherever, whatever location or time zone that your location falls. I bless the Lord who has made it possible for us to be alive and to witness this glorious and beautiful day. I welcome you to my marriage lesson 316 with Jesse Oyron Eziako. We have come again to finish what we started Sunday. That is our monthly edition. That is remedial question for threatening marriage. We want to use this very time to finish it so that we can move on to another thing. But for those of you who might not be privileged to have watched us live or be in our meeting on Sunday, I want you to know that you can go to the timeline and watch it. And this, what I'm going to do now, is going to be the concluding part of that. I started by telling us last Sunday that life is a seed. Life is a seed. That everything we do, and I narrowed that to the single in particular, that most of the life we are living is a seed we are sowing for ourselves. But most time we do not know. When the seed begins to germinate, we tend to want to reject the fruit, but we have forgotten that that is what we sow. And now said that is when I was talking about the point one. The question you need to ask yourself, if you are married and your marriage is being threatened and there are things, there are crises, there are conflict, there are problems that you are experiencing that is about to collapse the marriage, and you have been asking questions or you have not been asking. I said the first question you need to ask yourself, what is the foundation of our relationship? On what foundation was that relationship led? When you ask that question, you should be able to know whether the problem is from the foundation or not. And I did say, if you find out what it is, do the needful. If it's the one you need to do, go to someone or meet a professional, or the one you need to do directly in agreement with your partner through prayer, I said do it. I also said point two, you should also ask yourself, when your marriage is being threatened, when your marriage is constantly going through conflict, argument, abuse, or violence, I say ask yourself, are we communicating well? Are we communicating well? Are we talking to each other well? Are we discussing well? Are we open enough in the area of communication? Because I did say that communication is the life wire of every relationship. If you can talk well, the doctor will surely get well, get to know what you are going through and make you well. Did you hear me? I repeat it. If you can talk well, the doctor will hear you well and actually make you well. This thing is applicable to marriage. When you don't tell your husband, you don't tell your wife the problem or how you are feeling, you expect him to know. He or she is not a spirit. Ask yourself again, are we supporting each other's need, emotionally and spiritual? Are we supporting or are we meeting each other's need? There are so many people, once they are married, they neglect the need, they neglect the desire, they neglect the support that their partner require from them emotionally and spiritually. Find out yourself. I remember talking about a man which time he traveled out of their state, he always buy a gift for the wife. But each time he comes back, the wife will say, I don't like it. The man will say, he's so tired. I said, the man, because until, according to Gary Chapman, until you meet your spouse's need based on his need, you have not met his need. So it is important you ask that question. I said number 4 question, you need to ask yourself also, that is very, very important, is that you need to ask if you have forgiven each other. You know, it will shock you to know that there are so many, are we rather, let's phrase it this way, are we practicing forgiveness? There are so many marriages that is facing a serious challenge just because the wife and the husband is harboring unforgiveness as a result of one offense that happened in the time past. I said that will be part of the thing that is threatening your marriage. The 5th thing I ask also, you ask yourself, are we spending enough time, quality time together? Are we spending enough quality time together. If you are not spending quality time together, it will surely affect your union. Spending time together strengthens your bond between you and your partner. So you should ask yourself, and you should be able to know that it is important for you. Time is the most valuable thing a person can give to you. So if you cannot give your time to your spouse, it simply means you don't love her. And also, this is where I stopped, and this is where I want to wrap it and add one or two more points. I also asked a question, and what is that question? Are we approaching our problem healthy? Are we resolving conflict in a healthy way? Are we resolving conflict in a healthy way? Many of us are not using healthy ways, healthy means to resolve our conflict. Many people, most at times, you tend to talk. You tend to talk to your partner for what you have done. Rather, you are judgmental, or you indirectly you want to revenge. That is not the best way to resolve conflict. When you want to resolve conflict, you must know the right talk, the right time, the right talk, the right time. So when the time is, your talk can be good. If the timing is bad, it will affect you. So it is important don't keep living with the Old Testament law of eye for an eye, tooth for tooth. No, I want you to know that it is important you resolve your issues together and resolve it amicably. And the last point I wanted to add, the last point is this: are we keeping faith and commitment at the center of our marriage? Are we keeping faith? Are we keeping faith? What is your faith? I often tell singles, one of the major characteristics you must not compromise in marriage. One of the major characteristics you must not compromise in your marriage is the issue of faith. The issue of faith, your belief. Number one, the first belief you must be sure you are keeping is your belief in God, your faith in God. What did you believe? What did you believe? Many of us marry as a Christian. Many of us marry based on religion, but when we get into marriage, we suddenly leave out everything. When we want to go, we invited God. When we want to start, we carried God along. But once we enter, we feel we have married. You see people who spend hours going to prayer houses, going to mountain, praying and praying and praying because they are looking for suitor, they are looking for wife, they are looking for husband. And eventually, the day they got married and start living together, before when they thought that they don't need God, they use in their mind, they have used God to get what they want. They don't use God. No, you don't use God. If you don't keep faith, your faith in God, if you don't keep it alive and keep it in your marriage, I stand to tell you, there are certain things, there are certain challenges, there are certain burdens that you cannot bear. It doesn't matter whether you are rich, it doesn't matter how you are, you cannot bear it. If God be for you, who can be against you? So it is important for you to note that you need God. You need to keep your faith alive. You need to keep growing your faith. You and your partner, not just one person. Number two, faith. You also need to keep alive. You ask yourself, are we keeping our faith alive? Before you marry that person, you have faith that this person, you believe in that person. You believe him, you believe her. I believe that this person will be my wife. I believe that this person will be my husband. I believe that he or she, that we can be able to live together and manage things. And suddenly, you now no more keeping that faith alive, and this now leads to lack of trust. You no more trust the person you once trust for the first 5 years of your marriage, and suddenly that trust died. When you ask your question, what happened to the trust I have, and you ask it that question very well, I stand to tell you, you will discover where the problem is coming from. And once you discover, you do that. And again, you also need to ask yourself, are we keeping our commitment? Are we keeping our commitment? It is quite unfortunate that among the religious body, especially among the Christian body, there are so many twists, there are so many errors that have crept in, even though those who are propagating this error do not believe or want to accept that this is error. One of them is, now during marriage vow or during wedding, you hear the commitment that are being read. You hear the commitment. Will you take this man? Will you take this woman to be your lovely wedded wife or wedded husband? He said, yes, I do. In health, in prosperity, in this and that, for better, for worse, in sickness and health. Some people have now twisted it, say no. Well, if you say in sickness, that means you are attracting sickness. I'm sorry for you. Let me tell you, as long as we are on earth and as long as we are a living thing and we desire and we are working towards growth, there are challenges, there are pressures, there are trouble that are inevitable in our life. All they are not always as a result of the devil. They are not always as a result of the wicked ones. Most of them are as a result of our growth. It's just like a child that is growing. When that child wants to crawl, he starts crawling perfectly, wants to learn to walk. Now, before he starts to learn to walk perfectly, he will have fallen down severally. Then, when he started walking perfectly, and the mother used to carry her, when they want to go to some certain kilometers where they need to walk, the mother will need to carry her or carry him. That's the baby, when he was not working properly. But now that he's working properly, the child is excited, but child does not know that that promotion, that growth has also come with another level of challenge. What is that challenge? If they have to go to the kilometer or trek to the kilometer or walk to the kilometer that the father or mother usually carry the child, now they no more carry the child. You have to walk. And most that's why oftentimes you see our children, when they are walking with their parents, they will at one point they will stop and now heard mommy begin to cry, mommy, carry me, carry me, carry me. He carry mommy say, walk, I can't carry you. The child in his mind or in her mind, when he has not started walking, he cannot wait to walk. But now that he's walking, he's now saying, I am tired of walking. Why? Because every level of honest level has its own challenges, and the process of growth does not come without some certain level of pressure. And now anyone who is telling you that you have gone into marriage, you are not going to face challenges, you are not going to face some certain pressures, that person is lying to you, except the person and you is not desiring to grow. It's not desiring to grow. For instance, if you marry a man whose level of financial capacity happen to be below $1 million, you marry the person and suddenly things begin to turn around, more opportunity comes, and now his capacity of financial income now move to that of millions, 5, 6, 7, 10, 15 million. I tell you, that growth will have brought some level of responsibility and stretch in that man. There are some certain times, if you have been giving you 20 hours, you have been giving you 15 hours, 10 hours, you discover that he will not be able. You married a wife who does not have a job. When you people got married and you are believing God for a job, a young graduate, either as a husband or as a wife, and a young graduate, and you are believing God for a job, and suddenly God answered a prayer. He was given an employment in a very big or wonderful organization. He was made the manager, and before he knew it, within few years, he moved from the manager to the MD. Now, let me tell you, the time that job, both mentally and physically, the time, the pressure, the talent that job, that new position will require from him, it will be more than what is happening to before. And before you know, that is expected to reflect in your marriage. All you need is to manage it. I was discussing with my wife a few days ago. I said, as much as there's so much demand on the Western world, where they have a structured economy and a structured system, people work their ass out to earn a living. Now, their joy is that the job is there as long as you are ready to work. Then secondly, for so many homes, even as we think that all the Western world, their marriage are collapsing, is a lie. Many of them, because of their work ethics and work demand, their husband and wife have to plan their time. Even there are some certain couples that Saturdays, there is nothing they will do except they take each other out and sit down and discuss, because they know that the level of their growth and the system and the society they find themselves are demanding a lot. So this is why we keep asking we must keep up with our commitment. We must keep up with our commitment. Faith and commitment are what keeps marriage strong. Renewing them can help through tough times. Love is not just a feeling. It is something you do. David Wilkerson, that is what he said. It's an author. He said, love is not just a feeling. Love is an action. Love is what you do. It is something you do. So I love you. I love you. I love you. The commitment will require something from you. It is important. You love each other deeply. Love your husband, love your wife deeply, because love covers multitude of sins, and that is what is required from you. I want you to know, as I begin to round up in this session, I want you to know that every marriage that is sick, every marriage that have been diagnosed cancerous, every marriage that have been diagnosed cracked, or that is having a crack or bone pain or whatsoever, that marriage can survive. That marriage can be healed. But until you ask yourself, you must sit down. I started last Sunday when I started with this series. I shared a story of John and Mary who got married. They are so much excited. Love filled the air the day they married. That love was still flying in the air for the first 5 years. But suddenly, before you know it, things turn sour. That the people that used to sit down around each other as if they will not let go, suddenly every opportunity they have to sit together is argue, quarrel, and fight. But a day came, let me use the word of Luke 19 verse 15, when the prodigal son came to his senses. A day came that when John came to his senses and asked himself a question, what went wrong? After pondering and pondering and pondering, he could not have the answer, and he discovered that this is not what he can handle alone. The wife came in that day, they quarreled to resume their fight, and he discovered that the husband was so quiet. And before you know it, the husband asked a question, honey, have we not asking ourselves what went wrong? What is problem? We didn't start this way. Before the two know it, they sat down. They talked things over. They discover where they missed it. They discover what they are not doing right. And they asked God for help and sought for a counselor and amended. Before you know it, that is it. I want to tell you, no man who asks this question ever makes way to his location. If you are sick, you do see your doctor. And when you go to the doctor, you ask you some certain questions. The question they are asking you is not to mock you. The question they are asking you is to help you. So if your marriage is being threatened, or you are in a relationship about to marry, intending to marry, and you're already experiencing some crisis, ask yourself some certain question, whether you should continue or not. I know there is no marriage that ends in divorce that cannot be restored or that cannot be healed, but you must be ready to ask yourself questions. And also, finally, the question you must also ask yourself now, in all this battle, in all this matter, are we carrying God along? Are we consulting God? Are we giving God a space? If you don't give God a space in your life, if you don't give Jesus a room in your marriage, if you don't give the Holy Spirit a chance to help you to run, I will want you to know that you cannot run the organization called man. Man, whether it's in a female man or a male man, you cannot run I call it organization, or rather, will I call it an institution? You cannot run any institution called man, man male or man female, without the help of God, who created that man. So you need God in your marriage through faith in Christ Jesus. And I tell you, the rest will be story, will be history. Thank you for listening. The Lord bless you. I hope to see you some other time. God bless you. I love you. Bye.